So, the F1 season starts up again on Friday, and here is a wrap up of everything that you may have missed over the winter. So, first of all, obviously, drivers have definitely swapped around this season. We have definitely had a good silly season made up from the previous season. So, the driver lineups this year have changed quite dramatically for many teams. Red Bull have stuck with their reigning world champion Max Verstappen, who is looking to try and get his 5th this season, whilst instead of having the traditional Sergio Perez with him, they have instead gone for Liam Lawson, the New Zealander. Now, Liam Lawson replaced Sergio Perez due to Sergio Perez's lack of consistency within the team, and obviously he has not been performing well. So it was agreed that earlier in the 2024 season that Sergio Perez would be staying with Red Bull into the foreseeable future. However, at the end of the season, this did not come out during the winter. Sergio Perez's contract was terminated by Red Bull and by him, and instead of having the Mexican, we now have the Kiwi of Liam Lawson. Now, Liam Lawson has been in and out of the F1 season since 2023 and has finally now got a secure place within a team. We say secure, at the moment it is a secure seat. So Liam Lawson came into F1 in 2023 with having to replace Daniel Ricciardo when he broke his wrist at Zandvoort, I believe, and took over Daniel Ricciardo's seat until Austin. He then came back into 2024, and instead of temporarily replacing him, he replaced him completely at Visa Cash App Racing Bulls, taking the seat into Austin and into the end of the season for the sister team of Red Bull. After his performance with Visa Cash App Racing Bulls and testing performance within the RB20, Red Bull and Christian Horner decided to sign Liam Lawson on as the second driver in the Red Bull team. And to therefore take the second seat at Visa Cash App Racing Bulls is F2 runner-up in the championship, Isaac Hadjar. Now, he is a rookie along with 4 others, who we will get onto later, but Isaac Hadjar and Yuki Tsunoda will team up together for Visa Cash App Racing Bulls, the sister team of Red Bull Racing, and the drivers for Red Bull Racing are Max Verstappen and Liam Lawson. For the reigning Constructors' Championship McLaren, nothing has changed. Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri are still their main drivers, and it was revealed this week that Oscar Piastri has decided to sign a contract extension with McLaren, and it is a multi-year contract extension, so that means it goes on for multiple years. So obviously the reigning Constructors' Champions are going to stick with their driver lineup because it's what they know, so therefore there is not much change there. But obviously the biggest news to come out of Formula 1 came last February, came a year ago, and that was that Lewis Hamilton is leaving his team Mercedes to go to Ferrari. Now, that was big news, and still is big news, and will be the headline news for the whole season pretty much. With Lewis Hamilton moving to Ferrari, it is a big deal, as it puts massive question marks over his career and his future. How long is he going to be at the team for? What's his progression going to be like? What's he going to be like driving the car completely? And how's he going to pair up with Charles? Because as we know, the Ferrari like Charles Leclerc as their first driver. But whether they will choose Charles Leclerc over the 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton is another question. So Lewis Hamilton has moved to Ferrari until 2026, but he is able to leave the contract at any time he wants. And due to Charles Leclerc being kept on with Ferrari, Carlos Sainz therefore left the Italian team as they replaced him with Lewis Hamilton. Now, this Spaniard went to the British team Williams and is pairing up with the Thai Alexander Albon. That is the Williams lineup of Carlos Sainz and Alex Albon, and the Ferrari lineup of Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc. Aston Martin are also the second team to keep the exact same driver lineup as last season, with Fernando Alonso, the 2-time world champion, and Lance Stroll, who is the son of the owner of Aston Martin Formula 1 team, Now, many people have noticed that they do not want Lance Stroll in the team. Over the course of last season, we did see that one of Red Bull's key members, Adrian Newey, has left Red Bull and has joined Aston Martin. Now, that is a big move for Adrian Newey, as he is chief technical director and sorts all the cars out and mechanics and everything. He designs the cars. So that is a very big move, because Red Bull have been on a massive winning streak and have been doing really well. But with Adrian Newey moving to Aston Martin, it is a bigger deal, because we can probably see Aston Martin moving further up into the future. Now, Adrian Newey has publicly come out and said that he does not want Lance Stroll to be within the Aston Martin team. He's happy for Fernando Alonso to stay there, because he's a two-time champion. He does not want Lance Stroll there because he's not consistent. He crashes quite a bit, and he just cannot get to grips with any car. And Adrian Newey has come out publicly and said that. Now, it's the same with Haas. Have never really had a good run. The American team had quite a fair good run last season. They finished 6th, I believe. So they have slowly been building themselves back up again, but they have an incredibly young driver lineup compared to what they've previously had. So they have got the rookie of Oliver Bearman, who is the 4th Brit on the grid this season, and the Frenchman of Esteban Ocon, who has moved from Alpine to Haas. Speaking of Alpine, we have kept one driver the exact same, which is the Frenchman of Pierre Gasly. So they still have a Frenchman within the French team. But the other one is the second Australian on the grid, and that is Jack Doohan. Now, Jack Doohan has been a reserve driver for Alpine for a while now, and has deserved to have a seat in Formula 1 for an incredibly long time. And he's finally been given that chance with the seat at Alpine. So therefore, Jack Doohan has gone from reserve driver at Alpine to main driver, which is what everyone likes to see. We then have the team of Kick Sauber. Now, this team is turning into Audi next season, which is why many people thought that Carlos Sainz might turn to Kick Sauber for this season, because then he's with Audi for the future, due to his dad having a massive connection with Audi. And with Kick Sauber, they have gone with Nico Hülkenberg, who was originally with Haas for the past 2 seasons, and before that was with Renault. And they've gone with the F2 champion Gabriel Bortoleto. Now, he is the first Brazilian since Felipe Massa to sit on the grid and compete. Now, that is massive for people from Brazil, and is massive for the sport as well, to have a Brazilian within the grid. Due to obviously famous champions such as Ayrton Senna. Brazil has obviously got a massive, large impact within the world of Formula 1, and therefore it seems right to have a Brazilian sat on the grid. So therefore they've gone with the young rookie F2 champion Gabriel Bortoleto. And finally, last but not least, we go to Mercedes. Now, Mercedes have been very up and down recently. Obviously they've lost Lewis Hamilton, who has been with them for 8 World Constructors Championships, and obviously Lewis was won 7 Constructors Championships with them. So with Lewis going, George Russell has obviously had to step up to the plate as the number 1 driver. But the question mark over the whole of last season was who is going to pair up with George Russell. And they just so happened to go with the young 18-year-old, who is just now turned 18, of Kimi Antonelli. Now, he is the youngest Mercedes driver, I believe, and is the youngest on the grid. He was 17 when he was announced that he was going to be driving for Mercedes, and had turned 18 in August, and has only just passed his driving test as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how Kimi Antonelli does within F1. Obviously, he missed F3. He went into F2. He did quite well in F2, but has only been in there for a season, unlike some of these other drivers who have been in F2 for quite a while. He's got Mercedes taking quite a big risk with Kimi Antonelli. He does show positive results, but whether or not they convey that within an F1 seat is another question. So, for this season, we have 5 rookies, and they are Oliver Bearman, Jack Doohan, Gabriele Bortoleto, Kimi Antonelli, and Isaac Hadjar. Now, many people say that Liam Lawson is a rookie, as it's his first full F1 season, but in my opinion, I wouldn't class him as one, as he's been in and out of F1 season since 2023. So, like I said, Oliver Bearman is the 4th Brit on the grid, along with Lando Norris, Lewis Hamilton, George Russell, and obviously himself. Jack Doohan is the 2nd Australian, along with Oscar Piastri, and like I said, has gone from reserve to main driver with Alpine. And then you have F2 champion Gabriele Bortoleto, who is the first Brazilian since Felipe Massa to compete on the grid. And then you have Kimi Antonelli, who is the young Italian for Mercedes. And you have Isaac Hadjar, who was 2nd in F2 behind Gabriele Bortoleto. Now, their championship went right down to the wire at their last race, and he narrowly missed out on winning that championship with the battle with Bortoleto. So, there are obviously a lot of headlines this season, but obviously the main one being that Lewis Hamilton is moving to Ferrari. Now, over pre-season testing and beforehand, we did see Lewis Hamilton connecting with the car and getting to grips with it extremely quickly. And obviously he is a 7-time world champion and does know what he's doing, but he was getting to grips with it a lot quicker than people would think. So that is obviously going to be one of the massive headlines this season, along with, can McLaren make it 2 Constructors' Championships in a row? And can they possibly secure a Drivers' Championship with either Lando or Oscar winning the Drivers' Championship, therefore taking it away from Max Verstappen? And the other big headline is can Max Verstappen make it 5 winning championships in a row? We've already had contract talks this season, and that is already been announced, and that was that Oscar Piastri has signed a multi-year contract extension with the Papaya team of McLaren. And obviously that's been announced this week due to it being his home race in Australia happening on Sunday morning. Moving on to pre-season testing. So pre-season testing happened a couple of weeks ago. Now, for those of you that don't know how testing works, it happened in Bahrain, and you have 3 days, 2 sessions each day. You have an evening session and obviously a day session, and the 2 sessions are split between the 2 drivers. With the 2 drivers driving and having the sessions split evenly or not, or however the teams want to do it, pre-season testing is to allow for the teams to try and gather as much information as they can in those 3 days on how well their car is performing and how well their car may be able to perform in race conditions. So when you watch pre-season testing, you'll see funny coloured paint over the top of their cars. That's so the team can see where the wind is flowing and how much information, like all the information they can get from just that with the aerodynamics, and see how the car is moving on the track. With that information, teams can then progress further into not only just race weekends, but over the course of breaks. So if they need to improve their car, they can improve their car. So over pre-season testing, the strongest contender looked like McLaren, which is not shocking considering they won the championship last year. So over the 3 days, their goal was to have a reliable car that provided them with a strong base to work with, and it was the quickest, and it was the quickest on low fuel by 0.21 seconds. Now that is incredibly fast. So they look to be the favourites again to win this year, but like I said, anything can happen this season. McLaren can go from doing really well to obviously doing not so good and then doing poorly, like Red Bull did last season. They were doing really well and then all of a sudden just dropped. Following McLaren are the rivals, which is obviously looking like Ferrari again this year. Now, McLaren and Ferrari had a battle last season towards the end of the season for the championship contender, and Ferrari looked to be McLaren's closest rivals again this season. And like I said, Hamilton has gotten used to the Ferrari extremely quickly, and he's never used a Ferrari engine before. He's always been with Mercedes. Even when he was with McLaren was paired up with Mercedes at the time for their engine use. So he's always been with a Mercedes engine. And with Ferrari engine and a Ferrari car, he's gotten used to it very, very quickly. So it'll be interesting to see his potential in the first few weeks and see what it's like in a Ferrari for him. On to Red Bull. Red Bull's car was not as good as they hoped, and obviously they have lost Adrian Newey, which is a massive impact for that team. And it has obviously affected them, as the Red Bull was not doing as well as they hoped to do. They were only, Max and Liam were only really getting used to their car within the last day, and we're getting used to how it worked. And the same for Mercedes. You can see they've shown progression from last season, but again, they were only really getting used to it towards the last day, so it wasn't very... Testing was probably helpful for them, but not as helpful as they probably would have liked it to be. And obviously you have to have a dark horse at every single point in every single season. There's always a dark horse, and this year it looks like that Williams may be that dark horse. Obviously they have the pairing of Carlos Sainz and Alex Albon, and with Carlos Sainz having just come from Ferrari, he has inside information that he can give to the team. He knows how it works, he knows what their strategies may be like, and the Williams did look strong within the developing their car. They looked incredibly strong, but obviously we have to wait and see. But they do look like, out of all of the mid-team, they look the strongest. So obviously have to see in Australia what happens. So altogether, McLaren look like the favourites to win again this year, in Constructors' Championship wise. Drivers' Championship wise, I have no idea who I can put my name on it. It's getting a lot tighter than what it was, with Max winning all the races all the time, whereas now it is a lot tighter between all of the drivers, all of the top team drivers anyway. And the top teams being McLaren, Ferrari, Red Bull and Mercedes. Those four top teams, the drivers are getting closer, specifically between Red Bull, Ferrari and McLaren. They're getting a lot closer. So therefore I cannot place a driver on for the Drivers' Championship. It will be interesting to see how the rookies get on this season, with obviously 5 of them being there and 2 of them being in F1 races before their actual debut, that being Ollie Behrman and Jack Doohan. Jack Doohan raced in the last race of the season last season in replace of Esteban Ocon, and Ollie Behrman obviously drove in replacement of Carlos Sainz in Saudi Arabia due to having an appendicitis, and replaced Kevin Magnussen due to an illness in, I believe it was Azerbaijan, and Brazil. He replaced both Kevin Magnussen in those 2 races. So it'll be interesting to see how all the rookies get on this season. But like I said, McLaren look like the favourites constructors wise. So the first race, it all starts on Friday. Friday the 14th of March to Sunday the 16th of March, where the race is being held down under. So for us Brits, the race starts at 4 o'clock in the mornings, and it is the home heroes race of Oscar Piastri and Jack Doohan. So good luck to both of them, and good luck to all the teams this year. Thank you very much everyone for watching. I hope you all take care.